Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're talking about Christmas, and much like the Halloween episode, it's just this specific episode, not an annual type of thing. I just want to talk about some strong memories I have of Christmas as a child, and then we're going to play some games, and I got some stuff over here to show you. So the earliest memories I have of Christmas are Christmas at my mom's house, and they're memories of disappointment. Looking back on it now, I'm lucky to have gotten anything for Christmas. But when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you don't realize that. Or at least I didn't realize that. And I could ask my mom, I want this specific G.I. Joe figure, this specific Transformers figure, and I would never get them. She would get me a G.I. Joe toy or a Transformers toy, but it was never the one that I wanted. And I have no idea why, but like the earliest memories I have of Christmas, like the first few Christmases, that's what I remember. I remember feeling like, what's the point of me doing a Christmas list? I'm not going to get what I want. I never do. And like I said, I'm thankful that I got anything. I just remember feeling that way as a very young child. Now, my dad was the opposite. I could ask my dad, I want this specific item, and he would find it for me. And he would usually get me stuff that was also really cool that I didn't even ask for. So the Christmases were like total polar opposites. I had a blast at my dad's house and not so great a time at my mom's house. That did change at my mom's house once she remarried. My stepdad was kind of the same way. If I asked for a specific thing, he would find it for me. And then he would usually find some things that I didn't even think about asking for that were really cool. I mentioned the Ninja Turtles episode how he found that Metalhead figure for me. Like that's a really happy memory of Christmas for me. You know, I looked for that figure for months and I couldn't find it. And he finds it on that business trip in New York City. And I open it up on Christmas Day and like I was so happy. I was so ecstatic. And I still have that figure. I showed it, and all those memories are tied in with that figure. And that's one of my favorite childhood memories of Christmas. Just being so happy that I got that Metalhead figure. And then going to your grandparents' house. So on my mom's side of the family, we'd go to my grandparents' house, and it was only fun if my cousins were there. If they weren't there, I was usually bored out of my mind, because everybody was watching football and I didn't really care about watching football. And so my brother and I just kind of entertained ourselves and were usually bored. But if my cousins were there, we would end up occupying the space in the basement. Not that my grandpa had a really big house, but he had a decent sized basement, and they would line up tables down there. And there's probably, I don't know, 20 of us that would be down in this basement. And you'd walk down the steps of the basement, and that's where the tables were at. And there was a bathroom right there. And the reason they did it was because like they had a half kitchen down there. Like they had a stove down there. They had a stove in their kitchen. Then they had a stove down in their basement with countertop and cupboards. So you could prep the hot food down there and then just take it right out to the table. So they would be prepping stuff up in the kitchen and down in the basement. But you got to all that stuff first when you walked down there. And then as you proceeded through the basement and got to the end of it, the far wall, there was this old TV sitting there. Like he had this little living room set up that they never used. Like us kids were the only ones that used it. Like he had an 8-track stereo down there, and he had this weird looking television. There was this old couch and these 2 old chairs. And there was also some stores. Like there was a bunch of boxes all piled up against the wall. But like to get to the TV, there was like one way to get there. Like the basement was narrow, and so the couch took up a lot of space. And so you had to walk along one side of the couch to get into this area. And it kind of felt like this was our kids' area. Like it was like the game room in the pizzerias. Like this is our space. And even though that couch was maybe like 8 feet away from the nearest table where people were eating at, there was just enough space that we could zone out from everybody else talking, all the adults talking, and us cousins would sit there and we'd play our video games. And it was so much fun. And we did this up until our 20s, until really until I started dating, because I was the oldest out of all of us. And the last memory I have of Christmas time with my girlfriend at the time, the Dreamcast had been discontinued, and my cousin Mark bought a Dreamcast and a whole bunch of games on clearance. And it was the first time I played Shenmue. And I remember driving the forklifts and having a lot of fun. But your girlfriend doesn't want to sit there and watch you, your brother, and and my cousins play video games for 4 or 5 hours. So that kind of killed that. And then Christmas at my dad's house, or on my dad's side of the family, a few specific memories. For whatever reason, my grandpa always had Sears catalogs. I really only remember looking at Sears catalogs at his house. And, so we go there for Thanksgiving, and they'd say, Jason, what do you want for Christmas? And he'd always have a Sears catalog. And I'd flip through that thing, and I ended up making like a list of like 30 or 40 toys. Because you're looking through and you're like, oh, that looks cool. That looks cool. I want this. And then my aunt and my grandparents would get them for me. Really, it was my dad buying them for me and putting their name on it. I didn't know that as a kid, but then figured that whole thing out when I got older. So, I make this list of like 30 things, and I get like 2, maybe 3 things off of it. But I just have really good memories of sitting in their kitchen and writing out a list. There was one year that I think I actually did circle what I wanted in the wish book. And then my grandpa had this weird tree. It was like this silver Christmas tree. It had like all these like silver reflective, I don't know, things on it, like pieces, not foil. I don't even know what you'd call them. Anyways, it was like it was my grandpa's weird silver Christmas tree, is like what I called it. Like he'd stick some red balls in it, and it'd be up in the living room. And when I was in high school, I asked about it. I was like, what is the deal with Grandpa's Christmas tree? Because it's the only tree that I'd ever seen that was like that. And my aunt was like, there's a light that goes with this. There's a light that sits on the floor, and it's got a color wheel on it that slowly rotates. And then it makes the tree change colors. So I think there was like red, blue, green, and yellow, or something like that. They had the color wheel, but like the plastic was melted or deformed, so it was up somewhere upstairs at the farmhouse. They didn't use it, but it was like this big, huge thing back in the day. Like if you had one of these trees and that color wheel, and the tree would change colors, and she was talking about how they would have it in the storefront windows at Christmas time, and it was this big, big deal. But to me, it was just my grandpa's weird silver Christmas tree. Another memory about Christmas time was that, when you're in school and you've got Christmas breaks, so you've got like this week of time between Christmas and New Year's. And I always wanted to go over to friends' houses because you always got to see the cool stuff that they just got. A lot of times, at least for me, it was stuff that I didn't have. And when you go over to your friend's house and they have something that you don't have and you really want to play with it, but they've owned this thing for a while and they don't care about it anymore. And they're like, no, I don't want to play with that thing. Let's play with this. Well, you didn't have to worry about that at Christmas time because they got this, brand new present. And so, like Chris, he'd call me up and he'd be like, hey, I got this. And it's like, oh, awesome, Mom, can I go over to Chris's house and spend the night? Yeah, sure. And you could do it on a weeknight because you're on Christmas break. And so you go over there and you're playing with this brand new shiny toy that Chris really wants to play with and I really want to play with. And so it was just really cool. Usually you got your bigger items at Christmas. Like Chris got the G.I. Joe Defiant Space Complex, this big, huge toy. He got it for Christmas. And I can remember going over there and playing with that thing and having this big, huge G.I. Joe battle down in the basement of his house. They put the tree up in the basement, and so all of his toys would just be down there. And a number of Christmases, I just remember going over there and playing with whatever big, really expensive toy he got, because he was an only child. So, that Defiant was pretty expensive. I think it retailed for like $100 back then, or higher. But because it was huge, and I remember playing with that thing, and it was just so cool. Yeah, good memories of times like that. Because whether it was a video game, like I think he got a Sega Genesis for Christmas, too. Because I remember going over there and we were super excited to play Sonic 2, and it was just cool. You know, you always got to play with the shiny new toy. It wasn't like the old stuff that he had that he didn't care about anymore. And then when I was a kid, young kid, I was always super excited for Christmas. Like, I couldn't get to sleep that night, and then I'd finally fall asleep. I was always the first one to wake up in the morning, and I'd go out of my bedroom into the living room and start looking at all the presents and seeing, oh, what are all mine? Like, how many presents do I have? Where are they at under the tree? You know, oh, look at this big one. That, you know, you think the biggest one's always the best one, which is not always the case. You know, and I'd be so excited that I couldn't wait for people to get up. Like, sometimes I would like look and I'd look inside my mom and my stepmom's room. It's like, if they were awake, I'm like, hey, are you guys awake? You know, if I'd see them moving around, because I just wanted to open up presents so bad. And as I got older, that was not the case, especially when I was in high school. I was typically the last one to go to the living room, and like I'd begrudgingly go up there, wrapped up in a blanket, and be like, okay, let's get these presents opened, and that way I can go back down to my bedroom and be left alone. I don't know. Looking back on it now, I probably should have cherished those memories more, but I just didn't realize that as a kid. And the last Christmas that I really remember is Christmas of 1994. After that, specifically in 96, there was a number of changes in my life and things weren't so great. And I don't really remember any Christmases in the late 90s. Like, I remember this Christmas in 94, and then I remember Christmas of '01, like playing Mark's Dreamcast. And all the span of time between that, I don't really have any strong memories of those Christmases. So anyways, I got 2 games sitting over here. These are the games that we were going to play. So I ended up getting a 32X in 94. I don't remember if it was November or December. It was very close to Christmas. So I didn't purchase any games for myself, but I got 2 games for Christmas in 94. A Star Wars Arcade. And Virtua Racing Deluxe. I think I've talked about how I'm not really a big fan of the Sega cardboard boxes or the Super Nintendo ones. Cardboard boxes in general in video games, I don't like them. They're just so fragile. I really like the Genesis clamshell cases. They feel sturdy and robust, and they're fantastic. So, got those games for that Christmas in 94. That's the last Christmas I remember. Like, I don't really remember asking for anything. Like, I had just gotten that 32X, so my stepdad must have went out and just happened to have bought those games. Like, maybe I got it like a week before. I really don't remember. But I didn't even ask for those games. Like, it was like, oh yeah, Christmas again, whatever. Like, I don't know. I just didn't care. I don't know why. But that was like one of the last memorable Christmases, and after that, they just weren't so memorable. So those games are just tied to that Christmas. And this other item that's over here, so Micro Machines. They had this secret auto supplies line. I don't remember how big it was, but they had this gas can, and they had a battery, and I think the battery was an airport, and this is like this mountain retreat thing. And so it folds open, and the reason that this is memorable is because I opened this present up and played with it before Christmas. Like, I was snooping around down in the basement in the storage room. I found our presents, and I found this thing, and I had asked for it, you know. And at that point in time, I could come home, and I had like about 45 minutes before my brother got home. And then I had like another hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes after that my parents got home, my mom and stepdad. So I find this thing and, you know, devise this plan that I'm going to try to get home as quick as possible, open this thing up, play with it, and put it away before my brother gets home. And I did that. Although it really wasn't that much fun because I was so anxious and nervous about getting caught. And I don't think I planned ahead and like took a clock down there, so I didn't know what time it was. So I carefully cut open the tape on the box and I take it out and play with it on the floor in the storage room. And then I put it back in the box and I put a new piece of tape on it, and they never found out. But that's the only time I've ever did that, because it really wasn't that enjoyable of an experience. It was anxiety inducing. So you fold this thing open. There's this top part here. This is going to be kind of hard because there's storage for cars in here, and I got this thing like crammed full of cars and vehicles. But here is this mountain retreat. You got this gas station. There's a little elevator right here. And then when you turn what would be the gas cap, that controls the elevator. So like right there, you see that blue door opening, the elevator comes down, and then you can roll a car in there, and then the car can ride the elevator all the way up to the top of the mountain here. And then on the back side, that's where the storage for the cars is at, and there's like a little shop or something, parking lot. Wow, this thing's really tight. And I kept my favorite cars in here. Like this was like my main play set for Micro Machines. So all my favorite cars were in here. It's kind of funny, there's a lot of Chevys in here. This was before I was really a Ford guy, I guess. Either that or, I don't know, there wasn't a lot of Ford Micro Machines. I don't know. So here's the back side of it. There's like that little storefront right there, and there's like this street parking lot area. But then we got all these cars in here. I got some construction vehicles. I must have got like a construction vehicle play set. It's got all these orange, construction vehicles. This is going to be interesting to get this thing to focus in. Let's see here. Okay, so some of my favorite cars. I got the Batmobile from the Tim Burton Batman movie. I don't think this is actually a Micro Machine branded car. I've got the Time Machine from Back to the Future. And then a number of Chevys. Oh, here's a GTO, I think. There's a GTO, there's a pink Firebird, here's a black Corvette, here's an old Corvette. I got a couple, looks like 69 Camaros. This one says Josh on it, so I don't know, maybe Josh was the guy that like modeled the car? I don't know. Corvette police car. Lamborghini Countach. And this looks like an F40. I don't think the F50 was out yet when this set came out. Here's a white F40 and the hatch opens up. But anyways, yeah, I opened that present up, played with it, never did it again. So, yeah, let's check out Star Wars Arcade and Virtua Racing Deluxe on the 32X.
Attention all wing pilots. Stand by to receive orders. Wipe out enemy fighters.
Alright guys, as you can see I've got Star Wars Arcade going here. There's multiple game modes in this game. You can play the arcade, you can play a 32X version of the game, which is what I'm playing. It offers, I think it was expanded levels and expanded and more challenging levels. This game doesn't need any more challenge. It's modeled after an arcade game. It's already plenty hard. And the expanded levels, from what I can tell, are just more levels of shoot X amount of TIE fighters. And I'm not going to show you all those levels because I think that would be boring. In fact, I already completed one. I like this level the best out of all the, you know, shoot the TIE fighters out in space levels because we're surrounded by Star Destroyers. Otherwise, the level, you're in an asteroid field. And you're just shooting TIE fighters in an asteroid field.
Storm the Imperial Death Star and wipe out enemy fighters.
Lock S-files and attack positions.
Ray leader standing by. They're coming in. 3 marks at 210. Watch it, you've got one on your tail.
Nice. Okay, I picked up 3 kills. That's pretty important. The game's difficulty really ramps up here. And I probably have like a 50-50 chance of getting past this level or running out of time and failing, and then you use up one of your continues. You've got 3 continues in this game. Alright, where's my TIE fighters at? Sometimes in this game it seems the TIE fighters like to get right behind you and just park. Which just wastes time. As you can see, they kind of fly around you, like they do circles around your position. And you kind of gotta, well, fly around in circles, I guess, to eventually meet them. All right, let's go. Got 1 left. Oh, we got it. Okay. Whew, 12 seconds to spare. Okay, we got to get to the exhaust port, and I've never made it there. The best I've ever done is 50% progress. So, our goal is to pass that. And it's already going bad. Crap. Wow. $45. Oh, 47. That's my magic number. Usually I always get 47%. Like I said, the highest is 50, so. This is our last continue. And yeah. I think I did pretty good there. That's not gonna tell me. Alright guys, that is Star Wars Arcade. So let's switch over to Virtua Racing Deluxe.
Virtua Racing!
This guy's all ready for some racing. So let's see here. We're gonna do our stock car, run automatics and everything, and we'll do Big Forest first. I think this is the only track where you start in the pit. No explanation for that. Everybody else is already out in the track. It's kind of nice because you don't have to fight your way through, you know, all the positions, because normally you start in last place. Maybe they did that because this is probably the easiest track. So my thought is that I'm going to run one race with each car, just so we can see each one. They're all a little bit different. Like the stock car here has the lowest top speed. It also slides around a lot. I don't know why. As I go through the turns, you will commonly see me sideways. When I was a kid, this is a car that I would usually pick because I was watching NASCAR back in the mid-90s when I got this game. I wasn't really a big fan of open wheel cars at the time. I didn't really like the prototype car. It's got the highest speed, and I don't know, it just seemed like I wasn't braking enough, and so I was constantly crashing. Oh shoot, oh. It seems like the stock car likes to spin out the most in the grass. There's one track, I cannot remember the name of it. I never run the stock car on it because I tend to get it in the grass and I always spin out. I mostly play simulation racing games, so when I go back to play an arcade style racing game, I find the design of the mechanics of the game quite interesting. Like in this game, you basically leave the racing surface, you start to like seriously radically slow down. Like it doesn't matter if you're running through grass or if there's a gray stripe at the edge of the raceway. Let's see if there's one up here. Yeah, like that. You leave the racetrack and you start to slow down. It just seems like a mechanic to, you know, waste time, and so that way the player has to put more quarters in. I cannot believe I'm in second. Which begs the question, I don't know exactly who the first place car is. There's all those dots on the map, but I don't know, maybe there's a designation for the first place car. It's not like I read the manual before I started playing this. Oh, that was it? Oh, holy cow. Look at that, pretty consistent times. 44, 45 seconds, that's pretty good. All right, let's go back and let's pick the prototype and we'll run Bay Bridge. This was the track that I was talking about with the stock car. I never run the stock car on this track. I'm kind of curious if this prototype car was modeled after a specific type of car, or if it's modeled after kind of like the Le Mans cars. It looks like it because it's so long and low. I was just gonna say, like, this is the worst part of this track, is you get right here and you get a car in front of you, and the mechanic I hate the most in this game is that if I rear end someone, I don't know if it depends on the difference between the speeds of the car or just how fast I'm going, but you spin out, and that wastes so much time. And it can happen to you. The CPU cars can rear end you and spin you out. But like right here on the track, or, well, right back there, we could see the white stripe and then the gray. You run off that at all and you'll slow down. And normally in a racing game, I would be cutting that line to gain every single advantage I can to reduce my lap time. So I kind of have to like retrain myself how to drive when I play this game. When it comes to playing this game in the arcades, I feel like I did, but I don't have any real strong memory of it. I do have one good memory of this game. So my dad, we're gonna do it, sweet. My dad gets car sick unless he's driving. We were at his house for the weekend and we brought our Genesis and I had this game. And I'm like, Dad, check out this game. And he played it. And when he got up from the floor, he about fell over. Like the game had made him sick enough that he almost fell over in the bedroom, in our bedroom. And it's just this memory that I have attached to this game that I actually didn't know it up until that time. That's when my dad told me that he's like, well, I can get car sick and I have issues riding in planes. Thankfully, I don't have any of those issues. That really sucks. So we're running our F1 car here with the red and the white livery, and whenever I see this, I always think of the Marlboro, branded livery F1 cars from way back when. When I was a kid and like right there when the car's bottoming out, I didn't know that's what was happening, so I thought there was something wrong with my car. Like the engine wasn't running right because it was shooting out sparks, and it's like, what's going on with my car? Like, what's wrong with it? Oopsie. So when it comes to the motorsports that I watch now, I no longer watch NASCAR. I quit watching like over a decade ago, and I've been watching F1, and I like F1 a lot more than NASCAR. I guess my taste ended up changing. When they started adding road courses to NASCAR races, I really, really liked those. And pretty soon, those are the only races I was watching except for Daytona. And then eventually I just lost interest. And when I started watching F1, I found it more enjoyable. I liked that there was only 20 race drivers on the track. There's 10 teams. It's easy to know all of the drivers' names, the team principals, and NASCAR just seems, you got like 40 plus drivers on the track. And when I was watching that, I didn't remember people's names or teams. I couldn't tell you what the guy that was running in 32nd place, who that was. Unless it was one of the big name stars, and it just, I don't know. It seems like F1's more refined and streamlined, and I really like that about it versus NASCAR. wow, I'm actually kind of surprised I actually finished the race. I didn't think I was going to. This track, I never really know if I'm going to finish it or not. But that's really cool. So that's our video for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.